gonna die.
At the beginning of the 21st century, American scientists discovered a dormant virus and tried modifying it to create super soldiers, but instead unleashed a virus called the hemophagic virus. Infected persons were rounded up and placed in facilities, and soon they disappeared. After a while, a resistance was formed, and they began fighting back against the militant medical establishment run by Vice Cardinal Ferdinand Daxus, who has created a weapon that could wipe out all the hemophages once and for all. We then see 5 hemophage super soldiers drop into the blood center, slaughtering all the scientists in one swift move. They enter the blood vaults with plans to infect the blood supply with the hemophagic virus, but soon find themselves surrounded and slaughtered by Archministry soldiers. The detectives enter the room, inspecting the attackers' flat space technology used to store their weapons in compressed space. But one of them accidentally infects himself with hemophage blood, and his colleagues coldly gun him down. A courier then arrives at the blood center to collect Daxus's weapon. This woman is Violet Jat Sharif, secretly a hemophage super soldier, but using a substance to mask her identity. She is put through a rigorous biometric authentication, every aspect of her DNA inspected, but she passes the test. After a nude body scan, one of the scientists leads her to another room, explaining the importance of the weapon and the task she is being given. They have sent out decoys to distract the hemophages, and he warns Violet to keep the case closed at all times. Her voice is then verified for access to another room filled with soldiers armed with electric batons, where she signs for the case using her blood. The doctor reminds her that the case will self-destruct upon non-delivery and hands it to her, but at that moment outside, the real courier turns up and the soldiers verify her identity. Soon the center alarms begin to blare, so Violet jumps into action, eliminating the doctor, before taking on the soldiers who seem to be wearing fiberglass suits that shatter with every Violet disarms an armed guard, but his gun is out of bullets, so she disassembles the gun, using it as a blunt weapon to mercilessly take out the soldiers. More soldiers are on the way, so she activates an anti-gravity device allowing her to jump onto the ceiling and take out the soldiers with gunfire. The doctors soon find out Violet's true identity, once a test subject inside this very facility, until she escaped after the forced termination of her pregnancy. The head doctor demands to know why she is doing all this, but Violet reveals she hates all humans and wants to see them gone, all while using her technology to create guns in her hands and load them with bullets from flat space. Using her anti-gravity, Violet escapes to the roof of the building, before gunning down all the soldiers there in an Equilibrium-style action scene. She jumps to the ground only to find herself surrounded by soldiers, but with a swift motion of her blade they all fall dead. She takes off on her bike, reporting back to the hemophages about the men on her tail, so he reminds her to destroy the case immediately if she gets compromised. Cops soon catch up to her, so she activates the anti-gravity inside her bike and begins to ride on the side of the building, staying ahead of the shooting cops. She evades them, but a chopper appears and opens fire on her, ripping the building to shreds. Violet pushes the bike forward, staying ahead of the choppers that try cornering her. She then rides to the top of the building, and just before the chopper's blades can get to her, she gets to the top of the building, lands on the roof, and begins bobbing and weaving to avoid gunfire. When the men run out of bullets, Violet starts speeding towards them. The soldiers hurriedly manage to reload their gun and open fire, but it is too late as Violet launches the bike through the chopper, shooting and killing the men before landing inside another building, avoiding the explosion. She quickly recovers and gets to the lobby, but the soldiers are already there. She manages to avoid more soldiers before contacting the resistance leader Nerva, who appears as a hologram before her, giving her his location and telling her to bring the case. Violet ends up getting on an elevator, and while there she cannot help but wonder what is inside the case. Her curiosity gets the better of her, so she stops the elevator and opens the case, only to see a boy there sleeping in compressed space. He opens his eyes, and she quickly shuts it in shock. She makes it back to the hemophage's base, telling Nerva that a child is inside, but he scolds her for opening the case. He opens the case to see the boy, but he already knew this, explaining that the boy's blood contains antigens that are fatal to hemophages, and if his body was atomized into the atmosphere, it would be like an insecticide to them. Violet thinks if his body contains antigens, then it could be modified into a cure, but Nerva refuses to consider this and is prepared to end the boy. Violet leaves, and Nerva shoots the case, but Violet retrieves the boy who is hiding, and inside the case is a hologram projector. Violet manages to evade the hemophages sent to capture her, but she gets to a part of the building that is being controlled by another group of hemophages. She tells them she just wants to pass through, but the men have already received a call from Nerva, and they all aim their guns at her. Violet stays composed, taking note of all the men around her with her keen senses. The first man fires, but Violet evades his bullet, then begins to evade all the gunfire with her super speed and reflexes while returning fire and taking down all the men in a spectacular fashion. She then sees the boy standing on the ledge of the building ready to end himself, but Violet manages to get his attention, claiming she just wants to see the view too, but pulls him down. She escapes the room before Nerva's men can get there, then shoots her way out of the building. She and the boy get pinned down inside a car by gunfire when Daxus himself turns up. He doesn't need to introduce himself to her, as she already knows who he is. He claims the boy is just another experiment, and she should hand him over and walk away with her life. Violet refuses, knowing that the boy will be used to kill her and her people, but Daxus reveals that the boy is actually his son. She sees soldiers closing behind her, so she tells Daxus he is full of shit before reversing into the men and escaping into a subway and onto a train. She catches her breath for a moment, before warning the boy not to try anything funny, or she will not hesitate to put him down. They soon get off the train, and Violet contacts fellow hemophage Garth, asking for his help. Garth has heard about the case and the boy, but wants nothing to do with Violet at this point, as it would jeopardize his work. She tries talking to the boy, but he just stares at her blankly. She asks his name, introducing herself as Violet, but the boy holds up 6 fingers, indicating that this is what he is called. She then sees soldiers approaching her direction from all angles, and pulls a syringe, deciding to take his blood before she is caught. 6 pulls away, so Violet threatens to take his entire arm if she needs to, but 6 suddenly talks, threatening to alert the soldiers if she harms him. The 2 manage to get away, and Violet deduces that Daxus has no idea 6 can talk. He has no idea what is going on, so Violet explains the war between humans and hemophages, and the antigen that was cultivated in his blood to kill her people. Violet takes 6 to Garth, who is worried she may have brought trouble, but decides to help an old friend. 6 intrigues him, and he decides to draw some blood and run some tests. Meanwhile, Archministry soldiers have Nerva's group of hemophages cornered. They shoot out the lights to give them cover, and gunshots ring out in the dark, but when the backup lights come on, all Daxus soldiers lay dead. Nerva and his team confront Daxus in another room, but he is confident that they are unable to kill him. He makes himself a cup of coffee, and the hemophages go to attack when he lifts the cup, but he swiftly kills Nerva's men, telling him they have something to discuss. That night, 6 joins Violet as she is watching fireworks. He sees a picture in a book of kids on a playground and wants to go there, but Violet tells him in this world places like those no longer exist. He can somehow sense that Violet is dying from the hemophagic virus and apologizes to her, feeling sorry for her misfortune. Garth helps Violet out with a transfusion to keep away her illness. He then reveals that the antigen inside 6 is not fatal to hemophages. However, the boy himself is radioactive and has a tracking device inside of him. Whatever they put inside his blood, though, is killing him, and he probably has about 8 hours more to live before his body breaks down. Violet is now left confused as to what purpose 6 would serve the Ministry or the hemophages. A while later, Violet has Garth load up all her weapons. He wonders why she is going so far for a child, but she thinks he is only human and doesn't want to jeopardize Garth's work. Violet starts moving with 6, knowing that the Archministry will soon get a lock on his tracking device. She gets a notification that her cell phone is being tracked, so she prints a burner phone and calls Garth, warning him to get moving. They enter another building where Violet plans to just part ways with 6 at this point. She hands him her credit card and tells him to go buy something nice, but as he walks away, he tells her goodbye as he knows he won't be seeing her again. Violet starts walking away, passing the soldiers rushing to grab 6, who they have tracked down. She almost gets away, but realizes that she is leaving an innocent boy to an unknown fate and falls to her knees. She starts rushing back, but hears a gunshot and sees a body laying on the ground surrounded by soldiers, but they confirm that it is not 6. Violet quickly tracks 6 down, but he is suddenly grabbed by Nerva and his men and taken into a nearby cemetery. She gets to the cemetery where 2 hemophages surround and attack her, but Violet swiftly beats them both down. She enters a nearby church where Nerva has Six strung up by his hands over a well. Violet reveals her blade, ready for the fight ahead when Nerva stops her. He reveals that the antigen inside Six is actually lethal to humans, and Daxus has made him a proposal to finally put the hemophages on top and urges Violet to walk away. Violet doesn't understand, but she refuses to leave Six behind. Six then drops one of his shoes down the well, and Violet hears how deep it is and prepares her weapon. The first group of hemophages that attack her all get their heads cut off in a spectacular fashion, so Nerva drops Six down the well. Violet locks in, cutting down the incoming stream of hemophages with her skills. She gets to Nerva, but she quickly defeats him before grabbing the rope with her bare hands and manages to pull Six to safety. Violet is almost brought to tears telling Six that he only has a few more hours to live, but she plans to keep trying to find a way to save him. She contacts Daxus directly, who appears before her in a hologram. She demands that he remove what is in Six's blood, but he claims that there is no cure. She angrily wonders how any father could plan for their own child to die, but Daxus clarifies this. Six is really a clone of himself, the sixth clone in a series of 8. Violet calls him a monster, but Daxus mocks her misplaced maternal instincts. He makes her an offer to fix the problem with her blood if she just brings him the boy, but Violet promises to put a stop to him. He tells her he has as much as 700 men guarding him, but Violet plans to kill them all. After the conversation, she realizes Six has collapsed. She starts heading to the Archministry when Six regains consciousness, warning that she will not make it alive, but Violet tells him that killing is the only thing she is good at. She finally arrives at the Archministry where Daxus is standing ready with his soldiers on full display. She steps out with her gun and sword ready, demanding that Daxus hands over the antidote as he wouldn't create an antigen without one. Daxus comes clean. There is an antidote, but it will only be sold to people after the antigen is released. This is his way of keeping control of the masses and staying in power, and he demands the boy, but Violet stands firm. The soldiers, including Daxus, then open fire on Violet, but she turns out to be a hologram. The real Violet is standing nearby, and Six tells her it is impossible. Violet takes Six to a nearby park, and they play until he collapses in her arms, leaving her out of it. Daxus turns up with his team, and they plan to salvage what they can from his body. As for Violet, he takes a gun and shoots her, leaving her to die. Violet wakes on Garth's operating table, revealing he saved her from disposal and brought her back to life. But Violet had planned on ending things as she had no reason to go on. That night, as she lays in bed with her gun, she gets a call from Garth, who reveals that he has found a breakthrough with Six's blood and a cure now seems possible. She meets up with Garth, but she now plans to infiltrate the Archministry itself as she has a strong feeling that Six is still alive. Garth tries to talk her out of it, asking her for more time to find a cure, but he is unable to change her mind. Violet swiftly takes out a lone lookout before walking into the Archministry through the front door. She is scanned and multiple weapons found on her, and by the time Daxus is alerted, she has already taken out the entire first floor. She comes upon another room of men in all white wielding swords, but even without a blade they stand no chance against her. The next room has a multitude of gun-wielding soldiers, but Violet's gun fu is spectacular in taking them out. After the fight, Violet has ended up losing a few fingers, but she cauterizes the wound with her hot gun before pushing on. She then walks down on a blockade of soldiers, followed up by a small army of sword-wielding men, but they all get wiped out until she gets to Daxus's room. He tells her again that Six is dead and her fight is pointless, before trying to pull a flamethrower, but Violet uses her blood to stop it from working. Pissed she got blood on him, Daxus reveals his own blade. The two begin to trade blows, and Violet gradually begins to get the upper hand. He admits that she is the better fighter, but he has tricks. He then closes the shutters on his building, blocking all the light and sending the room into darkness. Daxus then reveals that he is also a hemophage and purposely released the virus to gain control of the government. Violet then ignites her blade, and she and Daxus begin to battle, but he pushes her back and even manages to disarm her. He begins to gloat over his victory, but Violet grabs his flamethrower, using his own flame sword to set him on fire before slicing him open. Violet rescues Six and takes him to the roof of the building. Six wakes, confused as he thought he was dead, but Violet reveals she had turned him into a hemophage at the playground, and this was her plan all along. Violet herself, though, is still dying, but Six reveals he knows the cure to her illness, and the two walk away. Thanks for watching. If you had a good time, go ahead and hit that like button, drop a comment, and of course, subscribe for more recaps just like this. And hey, don't click away just yet. YouTube thinks you'll love one of these two videos popping up right here, so check them out next.